We are here again today on HMAS Adelaide at Fleet Base East in Sydney. I'm Meg and I'm joined by Jenny and Ben, who are here to answer all of your questions about engineering in the Navy. So guys, could you give us a bit of an introduction? Jenny, you first.
Yep, I'm Jennifer Lewis, I'm 27 and I was born and raised in Melbourne.
I'm Ben Low, also from Melbourne as well, but originally from Malaysia, 28 years old, have been on board for about 5 months.
Excellent. Okay, so you both are weapons electrical engineering officers, which we might call you electronics engineers for short.
Yep.
Can you tell us a bit about what that actually entails, Jenny?
Yep, so we've got four sections in our department. So the first one is your sensors section. So in that you're talking more like your radar. So your nav radar, your depth sensors. So if we're actually going to hit something, we need to know about it. This second section is your communication sections. So you're thinking all your internal phones and communications internal to the ship, as well as communications to other ships and ashore as well.
Yep.
The third is the combat systems section, and that pulls in all the data and all the information from sensors and other sources, and that displays it to personnel across the ship to give them more of an idea of what's actually going on. And the last section is the weapons section. So on a frigate, for example, that also have in a weapons section the missiles and torpedoes, and we've got 4 Typhoons on board this LHD.
Okay, excellent. And Ben, anything to add?
So basically me and Jenny are currently under training as well. So what that means is that while we're here, we're trying to learn from the deputy of the department and how to run the department on a day-to-day basis. So on our time on board here for 15 months, basically we're here to learn. We're here to get exposure as to how the ship is being run. So a lot of the trainings is by observing, by doing the stuff, by doing the tasks. And yeah, it's a pretty good idea of what we do, yeah.
Yep, and you guys can have quite a wide variety of tasks on board a ship, can't you?
We can,
Definitely,
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously HMAS Adelaide is a huge ship. Where are sort of your general work environments on board a ship like this?
So primarily we work in basically in a small office. Basic stuff, computer, you have a keyboard. Reports to the head of department. And that's where we sort of get all the analysis done and brief the chain of command on the ship. That's the captain as well sometimes. Other places we work at is the ops room, which is the operations room, and that's during a trial or exercise that we are required to do. Let's say we're testing an equipment or system. Sometimes we're on the bridge as well, which is up at the very top at 05 deck.
Just up there?
Just up there, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And yeah, those are the two main places I can think of where we are there to oversee the trials and make sure that we achieve the right outcome.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So can you guys tell us a bit about how you joined the Navy? So Ben, you've actually come through the Defence University Sponsorship program that we've got. Can you tell us a bit about that program?
Sure thing. So the Defence Sponsorship program is how it works is that you basically do your engineering degree in a civilian university, and then you can apply to Defence to get sponsored, generally after the first year in uni. So I got sponsored halfway through my degree, and then how it works is that you will have to fulfill a return of service to Defence. So mine's 4 years, and after that 4 years I can choose to stay longer, or I can choose to basically opt out if I want to. But it's definitely a great stepping stone into the military world.
Yeah.
Everything is paid for, you get your tax fees paid for during that time, textbook fees. It's definitely a great avenue to enter into Defence, I would say.
Yep, and you stay at a civilian university, you focus on your studies while
Definitely,
you're there,
yes.
And then once you graduate from university, you're on to the Navy full time.
Definitely. So when you're in university, the focus is on your studies, but during your break as well, you have opportunities to do military stuff. You can do some work experience, for example, at an office at shore, or maybe come on board a ship for a few months if you want to. I had the opportunity to travel on the Young Endeavour on sort of like a leadership course training thing, so that was really cool. Yeah, so you definitely have a lot of options to explore what the Navy life is like while you're studying.
Wonderful. And Jenny, you came through as a direct entry officer.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that avenue? You obviously went through university and studied engineering.
Yep, so I did my whole degree off my own back, I suppose people would say. In my final year, I found out that I did actually get the job, so I got the graduate job, which was fantastic. So when I did graduate engineering, I knew I already had a job.
Yeah.
So instead of doing, I suppose, work experience and that sort of thing like the undergrad, I went literally straight in. So I went to the Melbourne Recruiting Centre, jumped on a bus, and off we went to our initial training.
Yep. Okay, excellent. So, I mean, there is a third avenue of entry, and that is through our Australian Defence Force Academy, ADFA. Do you find that there's a lot of ADFA graduates on board a ship like HMAS Adelaide?
Most certainly there is a lot. We have a few midshipmen as well, which is like sort of like cadets undergoing the training, and they'll be doing their studies at ADFA to be engineers, to be pilots, to be avionics engineers as well.
Yeah.
So definitely it's one of those most popular pathways into the Navy,
Yep.
which is through ADFA in Canberra, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, guys, so please keep sending through your questions. Send them through. We've got 2 engineers here to answer everything you've got on engineering, but I do have a question. What drew you guys to the Navy? Ben, why did you decide that you wanted to join the Navy as an engineer?
Okay, so I like the Navy because actually Navy wasn't my first option. So I was, before I was doing my engineering degree, I was actually doing a commerce degree.
Oh, okay.
And I think halfway through my degree, I thought that a 9-to-5 job seems a bit boring or doesn't really appeal to me anymore.
Yeah.
And as I was browsing the website, one day I saw the ad for Navy pops up. And I was like, you know what, I could actually go with the Navy and travel around the world, see what it's like. And that appeals to me.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't hiring accountants, they weren't hiring engineers, so I decided to, you know what, I'll do engineering instead.
Yep.
And that's how I got into the Navy, yeah.
Wow, so you chose the Navy first and then engineering second?
Pretty much, yes. Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, excellent. And what about yourself, Jenny?
I was just looking for something different. So when I went to do my engineering degree, I was considering defence at the time when I was doing it, but I decided to do it in a civilian one just in case defence wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a bit of work placement and that sort of thing with defence and on a Navy base, and that's when I decided that I really wanted to go Navy. It's just certain things, certain tasks you do in your job, it's just nothing you'd ever get in any other job.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted something different to what I suppose you can rock up, you can do a 9-to-5 job and sit at a computer the whole time, or you can rock up to work at a Navy base and like we get the Sydney Harbour Bridge, for example, is our view every day.
It's right there to my left. Amazing. So we've got some questions here. Ben, you had mentioned a bit about travelling. Mark has asked us, what kind of places do you travel to?
So we just recently came back from a 2.5-month trip up to Asia. So we started off from Sydney, head off to Darwin. At Darwin, we head off to East Timor for a bit, then to Jakarta. Jakarta, we went to Malaysia. Malaysia went to Philippines. And from Philippines, went back to Singapore, and then back to Australia.
Yep.
So we did cover a lot of ground there.
Yep.
And that was my first trip overseas.
Oh, wow.
I was pretty fortunate because I only joined 4 months ago, and I'm already traveling after 2 months.
Yeah.
And had a blast. It was really good fun. And
Yeah. So when you go on something like that, you're obviously there for a purpose. But do you stay on board the ship the whole time? Do you get a chance to get off the ship and see the countries that you're heading to?
Yeah, most definitely. So we probably sail 1 or 2 weeks, and then we arrive at Newport or somewhere, and from there we maybe get 3 to 5 days, depending on what the captain or what the plan is or what the captain wants. And from there we do get our recreation and rest. So it's always interesting, and there's always time to explore a bit of each country.
Yeah.
Especially for the last trip we just came back from. That was we definitely had ample time to see what each country has to offer. So that was good fun.
Yeah. Excellent. So you also just mentioned that you're still in training. I want to talk to you a bit about the Navy Officer Training, which is a new entry officers course, NEOC. How did you guys find your time there? Did you enjoy training?
There's definitely its ups and downs. So it's designed specifically to be a challenging course and to put everyone outside their comfort zone.
Yeah. I
suppose as a direct entry, it was a little bit intimidating, we'll say.
Yeah.
like starting off in the first few weeks, especially since you don't know what you're in for really. You've got a bit of an idea and that's about it. So it was quite interesting the first few weeks, and then from then they just seem to push you. So everyone seems to get challenged in different ways depending on, I suppose, what their skill sets are and what they're good at, and what they need to improve on. But by the end of the training, it's quite rewarding, I suppose, to actually achieve it.
Yep. So what do you think was your biggest challenge while you were at training?
I think it's just a new environment. So like what Jenny was saying as well, because we both had no military experience, we just came into the course, and the first 4 weeks is the most challenging, I would say, where you get exposed to a new environment. It's tense, it's intimidating, and pretty much everyone will be thinking, why am I here? You know, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But surprisingly, everyone sticks through that rough period. And then once you pass the 2-4 weeks, that's when you get more training as well, get more into the routine, and you adapt to it. And yeah, definitely ups and downs, but once you pass through everything, go to your graduation, everyone feels a very strong sense of pride. They've gone through this particular phase. It's definitely important, I think.
Yep. Is it the same? Did you have a different challenge, do you think?
I'm not too much of a runner,
Yeah.
so it was quite interesting. So I can pass the fitness test, no problems, but we were also with people that have played football their whole lives, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
we were put in a team or a division all together, and we were asked to run together. So it was quite challenging, but we all got through.
Yep. And do you find that you're now a better runner? We still hate it.
Better, but not great.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah,
well, that actually answered Matthew's question, who asked, what would you say is one of the hardest things you faced during your initial training? And I mean, earlier before when we were having a chat, you guys had both mentioned that you don't have family in the military, so I'm sure it was also hard sort of adapting to the new military lifestyle that you sort of were about to undertake.
Yeah, it definitely made it, I suppose, an interesting experience, because if you've got, I suppose, a few friends or a few family members, you get more of an idea of what you're walking into, what the training's going to be like and what you're expecting. But it wasn't as bad because you're not the only person. So I think there was about 120 of us that turned up on that day, the first day.
Yeah.
And from there you just, you kind of cling together. So you're all going through the same sort of thing, and you all have to overcome the same hurdles.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, I think one of the key takeaways is that you want to go in there with an idea that it's not real. This is not what the Navy is like. It's a training. It's a course. So you understand the game. You understand what they're trying to achieve by putting you into unfamiliar territories, unfamiliar situations. They're trying to make sure that you get exposure to change, basically, and it builds you up over time. And yeah, I think it's a critical pathway. I don't see it that at that time, but now looking back at it, I'm glad I was exposed to all the challenges. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, well, we've got a really great question from Rose. She's actually asked, do you work with a lot of other departments on the ship, or is everyone quite separate? So luckily, we actually had some time with Ben and Ingia early in the day, and we chatted a bit about teamwork on board a ship like this, so we might throw to that footage.
Hi guys, my name's Ingie and I'm here with Ben today. So Ben, we want to talk about teamwork within the Navy. It's obviously an important value. Can you tell us why it's so important in the Navy?
I think Navy being such a large organization, in order to achieve a mission outcome or to do a trial successfully, requires the effort of every single personnel, both on shore and both on the ship as well. And that's why teamwork plays such a crucial role. No single department can sort of achieve the mission outcome by itself. It requires basically all the diverse skills we have in the Navy in order to bring forth the result we wanted. And that's why teamwork is so important.
Great. And how about on a ship like this? Why is it so important in terms of your day-to-day activities as an officer?
I think on a ship especially, teamwork is very, very important. Basically because we have 5 departments on board the ship. You got the executive department, you got the engineering department, you got the logistics department. And my role as an officer, as an engineering officer, basically I need to be on top of things. I need to know the whole picture of what the mission is for the day, and coordinate between 3 different departments or 4 different departments in order to achieve the mission outcome. So that requires me to liaise with my other counterparts in the department as well, and that's why it's so important.
Fantastic. And how about a specific activity that might achieve this that you can talk to us about?
Sure thing, Angie. So basically, I'm a weapons electrical engineer. Let's say we're doing a trials, we're doing a system equipment check on the ship. You have the executive department on board the bridge doing navigation work, and you have the, let's say, the engineering department on standby on the bridge as well, making sure the equipment is serviceable. They are the first point of contact if it fails. And then leading up to that mission, you have the logistics department organizing the supplies, organizing the planning routes to bring us up to that stage to conduct the trial successfully. And that's probably the best example I can give of how the teamwork is so important. And that covers every single mission we do, or whether it's a trial, or whether it's doing a navigation tasking.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Ben.
Thank you, Angie.
Great. So I've got a bit of a follow-up question after that footage. What do you think are some of the qualities that you might have learned in the Navy that you didn't have before, you don't think, when out in the sort of civilian streets?
Well, for me personally, it's confidence and to some extent resilience as well. That's something which you build up by being exposed to different situations, unfamiliar situations, like I said earlier as well, during the course of the training. And yeah, it just gets you able to control yourself better. I'm definitely able to control my emotions better now, can handle situations which I haven't experienced before. So that's probably the biggest takeaway I have by being in the Navy is the confidence gain and being adaptable and resilient to a changing environment. Yeah.
And what about yourself, Jenny?
Most likely change management.
Yeah.
So it's a very big thing with the Navy. We do know things change and things can change quickly, and the ability to, I suppose, adapt and to keep up with that instead of, I suppose, just moaning about it. You just move on and you change as required.
Yeah.
So they do that quite a lot in our initial training, and they teach you change management and how to deal with that when it all changes.
So sort of intentionally, because I know when you're on board a ship, you need to be able to adapt quickly and respond logically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I want to talk a bit more about the ship behind us, HMAS Adelaide.
Sure thing.
You guys were on a ship recently for quite a long period of time. What's it like to live on board a ship for a couple months at a time?
We're quite fortunate. This is quite a big ship. So
Yeah.
the cabin's a lot bigger.
Yes.
Bed rack as well is actually quite comfortable. So I have no complaints there. I actually find it quite enjoyable staying here actually. Yeah.
I think it's just a different experience. So when you're at home, you choose who you're living with, you choose what you're doing, and when you do it, you choose when you eat, and you choose what you wear. Whereas on a ship, it's a very different lifestyle, it's a very different feel. You don't choose who you're sharing a cabin with, meal hours are set timings, you wear your uniform, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just something you kind of just get used to. I found it usually takes a week or two to really set into the flow of it all. But yeah, it's something that's very different to what I've ever done before. But yeah, it's quite easy to get used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just practice.
Cool. So a bit of a question on, I guess, with your roles on board the ship, do you find that they're quite different when you are out at sea, or versus, I guess, when docked here at a port?
Yeah, so whenever we come back into a port, or majority of the time anyway, we actually go into a maintenance period. And that's when we are maintaining or repairing certain equipment, or just doing, I suppose, continual work on it. And we also get contractors on board as well, so it's a lot of management of that. As opposed to when you're out to sea, you might be sending off reports, you might be coordinating certain things and planning as well for when you do come back.
We do quite a lot of trials at sea as well, testing of the equipment as well, which we can't do when we are alongside at our docking. So that's very different sort of like roles when you're on alongside and when you're at sea. But both roles are very critical as well too. Yeah.
And I guess with posting sort of cycles within the Navy, where are some sort of main places that you would be posted to, or opportunities for postings?
So we could go anywhere across Australia or even across the world, really.
Yeah.
There is quite a lot of international postings for engineers or for all diverse ranks, diverse, I suppose,
Jobs.
yeah. so you don't need a specific qualification for that. But in terms of Australia, we do have a few postings in the west, so around the Perth area, a few in Melbourne. In terms of WE, so our jobs, we're most likely going to be between Canberra and Sydney.
Okay.
But there is quite a good chance we could be posted everywhere else as well.
Yeah. So, and I guess with training, can you go anywhere to sort of train, or is it mostly within Australia? Because you can undertake some additional training once you are in, and additional courses and things like that.
So after our time on board HMAS Adelaide, we can do a few units of master's course. That's usually systems engineering.
Yep.
But if you want to specialize, say, in explosive armaments or that kind of area, you can go apply for overseas schemes as well. So you can go to London, for example, learn chemistry there at a university, being taught by one of the best, and then bring that skills back to Australia to work in an office environment as an advisor. So it's quite varied, and the choice is pretty much up to you on where you want to take your career to go to.
Yeah. So there's opportunities to study further and for career progression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wonderful. All right. Well, we might get stuck into some more of your questions, but as always, please keep sending them through. So I've got one here from Lachlan. Any tips for recruit training? My enlistment date is Feb 2018 at HMAS Cerberus. I'm enlisting as an electronics technician. So you guys spoke a bit earlier about your initial training, but any tips for someone who's heading off for the first time? Anything that you wish you knew before you went?
Oh, that's a good one. We did actually spend 6 months down at Cerberus. We didn't get to interact as much with the ETs going through training. But we did do a few, I suppose, march in and drill with them as well.
Yeah.
Probably the best thing is, I know people say it all the time, but be as fit as possible. It will make your life so much easier.
Yeah.
And also just pay attention to what's going on around you as well. So matchy, everyone's got a match.
Yeah. Yep. And Lachlan, we actually were lucky enough yesterday to have an ET on board to answer questions. So jump on our Facebook page and watch that video from yesterday, because I think we did ask them some tips from Cerberus. So excellent. I might ask, Sinan had a question: what are the challenges that engineers have to face in their initial stages of training, and what kind of knowledge will help us be more successful as engineers? So a bit of advice, questions coming through.
That's an interesting one. So our initial training is, so for the first 6 months is officers training, and the following 6 months is engineering specific training. Probably the best thing would be problem solving skills. We do a lot of field exercises and tasks, we'll say, and you'll be in charge of a good 20 people in front of you, and you'll need to solve a problem and use those personnel in front of you to solve that problem. So it's a good idea to learn how to solve problems, learn how to delegate said tasks to people, and get people to do exactly what you want and be able to explain that properly.
Okay, great. Yep. We've got another question from Ali. They've asked, how is pay when you're on training? Do you get paid while you train?
Yes. Yes, thankfully we do. Probably the best thing is though that because we're on HMAS Creswell, we don't actually have time to spend it. So when you get out of your first how many weeks, it's
good savers.
Yeah, it's great. But yes, we do get, I suppose, your initial wage when you go through training, and then once you graduate from your NEOC, then you get a pay rise as well, and that slowly goes up as you get trained as well.
Yep. Wonderful. So Tom has asked, are there any components of your job that you don't necessarily enjoy or took you by surprise that you didn't expect before joining? It's a hard question.
Tricky one, yeah.
Probably, I expected there to be some drill involved.
Yep.
So a lot of marching. I didn't expect myself to be giving orders to 120 people. So that was quite interesting. So that went for maybe a good half an hour.
Yep.
It was, definitely an interesting experience, and you definitely have to raise your voice and scream as loud as you can for everyone to hear you.
Okay, that would have been a surprise.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Ben?
So I think basically Was the question basically?
Components that you don't necessarily enjoy or took you by surprise that you didn't expect?
So being engineers, you come in here, you thought that you'd be focusing only on engineering, but in the Navy, you're an officer first.
Yeah.
So that means you cover many roles. You cover ceremonials, like what Jenny was talking about as well. You're doing drills. You're being a leader. You're talking to people. You're talking to personnel who may have an engineering background or who may not have an engineering background, and you need to learn to traverse both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something which caught me by surprise. You have to be out there. You have to get a clear idea of what is expected of you and what sort of information that each party might require from you. And yeah, but it is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it probably teaches you those qualities that you were talking about before, being adaptable and resilient and confident.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
certainly. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got a question from James, who's asked, does studying electrical and computer systems engineering qualify you as an electronics engineer in the Navy? And I'm actually going to answer this one. And James, my suggestion would be to jump on Defence Jobs Australia and have a look at those educational requirements for that role, and that'll give you a good idea. Mark has asked a great question. What leadership experience do you need to join the Navy? And once again, we were lucky enough to spend some time with Jenny and Inji on board the ship earlier, so we might go to that footage.
Hi guys, so now I'm here with Jenny. We're going to talk about leadership. So Jenny, can you tell us why leadership is so important in the Navy?
Yeah, so everything we do revolves around leadership. So as an officer, it's absolutely essential to be able to be a leader. So from initial training, you actually train, you practice, and you grow your skills and ability to become a leader. When you are posted out, you do take charge of personnel below you, and that's when you need to use those and have those leadership abilities. Sailors, it's a little bit different. So as a sailor, you come in as a fresh fresh seaman, coming in.
Yep.
You're not required to have those leadership abilities straight off, not like an officer does. So as a sailor, though, as you go through the ranks, your leadership ability will grow, and it needs to grow in order for you to be promoted. As an officer, though, you are required to have it from the get-go, and it's just a matter of practicing in order to have the ability to do your job.
Yeah, great. And then what about for your role specifically? So you're an electronics engineer in the Navy.
Yep.
Can you tell us about some of the leadership roles that you do on a day-to-day?
Yep, so currently one of my roles is Refit Liaisons Officer, so RLO, and that involves a lot of liaising with contractors. So the contractors will come on board through our maintenance period and will either do your planned maintenance or defect rectification throughout the period. And when they do that, we have up to, say, 500 people on board. So I am their first point of contact for any issues or any questions. And if I'm not able to respond to that, I will be able to refer it to the correct person on board as well. So that involves, I suppose, dealing with quite a lot of people and delegating certain tasks when required.
Okay, great. And did you have any prior experience in terms of leadership before you joined the Navy?
Through high school, I didn't actually have any sort of leadership roles, so I wasn't a house captain or a school captain or anything like that. I did grow up playing water polo, so I played for quite a number of years, and I was the goalie, so that required, I suppose, a few key leadership skills and abilities as well for that. But prior to coming in, I didn't necessarily have the experience, any sort of experience.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for your time, Jenny.
Excellent. All right, well, Dylan's got a great question to follow that footage. He has asked what's the difference between an officer in the RAN and an NCO compared to the RAF. But I'm going to switch this question up a bit based off of your experiences. More generally, what are the differences between an officer and a sailor?
So basically, an officer, part of your training involves leading a team. So as an officer, you automatically are expected. You do get a lot of opportunities to lead. And yeah, that's the main difference, is that you are expected to lead your department and take charge. Whereas a sailor is the main focus is his equipment. For an engineer, for example, or to do his tasks, basically be a master at his craft or her craft. Whereas we cover the leadership roles.
Yep. Okay.
I would say a good difference would be, I suppose, ETs, so our electrical technicians, are actually more hands-on with the equipment.
Yeah.
So they actually get in and fix the equipment and will fault find as well. So they, as they gradually build up through the ranks and be promoted, they get more knowledge through experience, and they also, by the time they get to senior sailors or non-commissioned officers, they have leadership experience as well.
Okay. So it's more, you know, as a sailor, you're a bit more hands-on, and then in an officer role, you're managing and leading a team.
Correct.
Yep, great. So a really great question from Aaron. He's asked, how do you deal with your mental health and well-being? What are your coping mechanisms?
So I do personally deep breathing.
Yeah.
When I get nervous,
Yeah.
I just take 10 deep breaths. Sometimes I do meditation as well, just a quiet time, just to reflect. At the end of the day, I think as you progress through your career, you just get better at managing, like what we talked about earlier, being resilient. And let's not forget as well that the Navy provides a lot of external support as well. If you are experiencing that, it's not an issue we try to hide or bury under the rug. We definitely encourage people to talk about it, and then to seek the support that defense provides.
Yep. And do you think living on a ship all together, you know, you create a bond and a mateship, and you look out for each other when you
Most
you speak
definitely,
out
yeah.
and chat to each other?
Yeah. We also, for example, in our last deployment, we took a chaplain on board with us.
Yeah.
And he is one of his primary roles is to go around and speak with people and just double check that everyone is going all right. There are a lot of coping mechanisms, even simple things like playing music.
Yeah.
So because you're away from home, from family for so long, just something that reminds you of home can make you relax a little bit more.
Yeah. Great answers. So let's talk a bit about fitness. We have already had a bit of a chat, but how do you guys keep fit on a ship? You know, what do you do? Do you do a lot of swimming?
I'm more of a swimmer than a runner, but I think we're very lucky on board LHD, so we actually have quite a few gyms on board.
5 gyms actually.
5
gyms.
gyms. Wow.
We've got quite a bit, and
Yeah.
we also have the flight deck and other decks below as well, which people can run around. So you can do that outside of hours, but they also do like department PT sessions and that sort of thing inside of hours, so you actually get paid to go do a gym session.
Yeah, excellent. And how many PT sessions do you guys normally do, sort of in a day or a week?
3 a week. Is
2 or
it?
3 a week, yeah, basically.
Okay, well, yep.
But in the mornings, it's a nice place to just run up here as well, do a few laps here, so I keep fit as well. Yeah, got some yoga class going on as well sometimes.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it's very, very
Unexpected.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, great. Now, Erin's asked a great question. Is seasickness a major problem, or is it just hype?
So on this ship, I've only been seasick maybe once.
Yep.
And I found as long as I stayed on the lower decks, I was fine and I was feeling okay and I could keep working. So that worked okay for me because I just found another computer.
Yeah.
So when I was on HMAS Warramunga for a few weeks, because she's such a smaller ship,
Yeah.
I got quite a lot more seasick and it affected me quite a bit more. So
Yeah.
I was probably out for 2 of those days when it was in a
Okay.
higher sea state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can really depend on how big the ship is
And
to
how
much
stable
it
it
affects
is.
you.
For this one,
Yeah,
it's
the
actually quite
sea state.
stable actually. But I feel like seasickness is one of those things where everyone goes through. You will get it at one point.
Yeah.
And then after that, you sort of, I don't know, for me personally, I built immunity to it. So I got pretty much better after my first time.
They do help you out as well.
Yes,
You can
yes.
go see the medics whenever you want.
Get some tablets as well if you want to help you
Yeah.
control it. Yeah.
And they can accommodate for you, so you can still actively do your job. You just might need to move to a different level or a different office space.
Yeah.
If you're seasick, you can get some rest in your cabin for a bit until you're better as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens. We understand that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not a
great.
big issue.
So I guess getting back into the ship, do you find with the sleeping conditions on the ship and being an officer, do officers have their own space on board a ship? Do you guys get big rooms? Do you get the same as a sailor? What's the deal there?
So I think the main difference is we only have to share, so there's only 2 to a cabin for most of the officers' cabins. Some officers, if they're higher ranking, they also have their own cabin because they work longer hours. But the sailors can come up to, say, 12 to a room on this kind of ship anyway.
Yeah, yeah. But this is a bigger area anyway.
Yeah, and so there's larger bunks as well. And I don't know, it's probably more homely and a lot easier to live on a ship this size.
Yeah.
And there's also recreation spaces as well for officers and for sailors. I think there's several for the sailors as well to just go hang out, watch TV, play some games as well. So yeah,
great.
the downtime.
Harrison has asked a question. Any tips to pass the 15-minute water tread?
Oh, that
Do you
one.
just practice until you can't tread anymore?
I grew up playing water polo, so I found that very easy.
Yep.
So I'll pass that to you.
So actually, that one I was struggling with that one actually when I first did my course, the training.
Yep.
The tip I was given was that you take one deep breath, and then after that, take shallow breaths.
Okay.
So take one deep breath. That way, you have a lot of air capacity in your lungs. You're naturally buoyant, and then just take short breaths. And that's probably the best trick I learned to get me through that 15-minute threading.
Yeah. Okay, great. So guys, please keep sending through your questions, but we've only got a few more minutes, so please send those through. I want to ask you guys a question. What's been your favourite experience so far? You haven't been in the Navy for too long, but have you had any highlights?
For me, it's going to be the trip where we just came back from.
Yeah.
That was my first trip overseas on a ship, and had a blast of time. Got to meet new people, new places, and I really enjoyed my time there. It can be quite interesting in terms of the work environment, but overall I would say it's probably my highlight. Yeah.
I just thought it was great that you could literally just leave. You could go out at night and you just watch the sunset, and you might not have anything around you. So we've done that a few times. It is quite relaxing in those times, and there's also other opportunities that you just kind of sit back and wonder, you're like, I would never do this, or I would never be here unless I had this job.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I guess one final question that we've had come up a few times: what's your favourite part about your job, and what's your favourite part about being in the Navy?
Oh, that is a tough question. Probably the favourite part of my job is the type of equipment and systems we get to learn about. They are all quite unique, and it is great to actually get in and learn how they work, and learn how we're going to fix them, and learn how we're going to maintain them. What was the best experience?
What's your favourite part about being in the Navy?
Doing something different.
Yeah.
So people always ask, they're just like, oh, so what do you actually do? Oh, what does that mean? Or, oh, you must move around a lot. You're like, but you've got the support behind you. You've got the Navy actually helping you move.
Yeah.
They're not just leaving you to it, expect you to turn up somewhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just something very different to everything else.
Yeah. Great. What about yourself?
For me, the best part about the job is that I'm not just doing engineering only. I'm learning a lot of stuff. I'm learning how the executive department is being run. I'm learning to do ceremonials. I'm learning how to be in charge of a ship, and those are things which I find quite interesting as well. Yeah. And that's probably the best part about my job. I get to learn across many different roles, and take it on board. Yeah.
Great. Now I'm going to sneak in one final question. Sorry,
Okay.
I got your hopes up.
All right.
Erin's asked a really good question, which I think we should ask. Can you contact your family at any point when you're on board?
Majority of the time you can.
Yes.
So we'll say 95% of the time you have email.
Yeah.
So you can always send them an email. In the last deployment, we actually had a call home service, and there was a phone dedicated to people that wanted to come up and call home, and so everyone you just booked it out, and you could come up and speak to family members.
Yeah. And that's because you guys wouldn't have mobile reception.
Yes,
Down
that's
on the-
correct.
No,
down on the
no.
ship. Yeah.
And it depends on the different ship as well, how it's being run. So when I was on HMS Darwin, for example, we are able to make phone calls pretty much throughout the day, or after work if you want to. So a lot of avenues there, to to contact your family, email, phone call. Just
Yep.
got to be considerate of your teammates. Make sure they get their fair share as well.
Yeah,
And that's pretty much it.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. All right, guys. Well, that's all the time we have today. But thank you so much for joining, and thank you guys so much for spending the time with us up here. If anyone has any questions about Navy Trades careers, we did have our Navy Trades Facebook Live Q&A yesterday, so jump back on and have a look at that one. If we didn't cover any information and you want to find out more, head to Defence Jobs Australia, and that'll have all the information you need. But otherwise, we'll be back in the new year with some new Q&As. So thank you, and have a great holidays.